Captain Alan Wright stood tall on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiance. The year was 2157, and humanity had spread across the solar system with colonies on Mars and Europa, and outposts reaching into the asteroid belt. Today marked humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Consortium, an alliance of 7 advanced alien species. Alan adjusted his uniform and turned to Susan Kelly, the mission's lead diplomat. "Ready for this, Susan?" She nodded, her expression serious. As ready as anyone can be for first contact with multiple alien species. The Defiance docked with the massive consortium vessel at the arranged coordinates near Jupiter. Alan led the small human delegation through the airlock and into a large, oddly shaped chamber. The room was lit with a soft blue light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. 3 alien beings waited for them. 2 were insectoid Vextar, with shimmering exoskeletons and multiple limbs that moved with disturbing precision. The 3rd was a luminary, a being that appeared to be made of living crystal that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. "Welcome, humans," the taller Vextar said, its voice translated through a small device floating between them. "I am Ambassador Zyrtak. We have been anticipating this meeting." Susan stepped forward. "On behalf of the United Earth Government and all human colonies, we extend greetings and hopes for peaceful relations." The meeting progressed smoothly at first. The aliens shared information about the consortium's structure and the various species that comprised it. They expressed interest in Earth culture and technological developments. But as hours passed, Susan noticed concerning patterns in their questions. "And your military response protocols?" asked Zyrtak. "How quickly can Earth forces mobilize in case of emergencies?" Susan exchanged a quick glance with Alan before answering carefully. "We maintain defense forces appropriate to protect our colonies as would any responsible civilization." The luminary being, who had introduced itself as Chrysella, shifted its crystalline form. "We have observed your species for several decades. Your history is most interesting." Alan felt a chill at those words. "You've been watching us." "Of course," Zyrtak replied. "The consortium monitors all developing spacefaring species. Your kind has progressed unusually quickly from primitive technology to space travel." The initial diplomatic session ended, and over the next 3 days, the human delegation met with representatives from the other consortium species. With each meeting, Susan grew more concerned about the subtle hostility she detected beneath their polite questions. On the final day, the full delegation gathered again in the blue-lit chamber. Zyrtak stood before them, flanked by representatives of all 7 consortium species. After careful evaluation, the Vextar announced, "The consortium has determined that humanity represents a potential stability risk to galactic peace." The room fell silent. Alan stepped forward. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means," Chrysella explained, light refracting through its body, "that your species will be placed under consortium oversight. Your military development will be restricted, and expansion beyond your current territory will require consortium approval." Susan's diplomatic training couldn't mask her shock. "On what grounds?" Zyrtak's antennae twitched. "Your species' history demonstrates an unhealthy preoccupation with conflict. Your entertainment glorifies violence. Your greatest technological advances come during periods of warfare. You are dangerous." "We came here in peace," Susan protested. "We've expressed nothing but goodwill." "Words are easy," said a furry being from the back of the alien delegation. "Actions require monitoring. Your species knows only conflict," Zyrtak said dismissively. "You are a danger to galactic peace." A tense silence filled the chamber. The human delegation looked to Alan, whose face had hardened into a mask of controlled anger. He stepped forward, his patience exhausted. "For thousands of years," Alan said quietly, "humans have fought among ourselves. We've made terrible mistakes, but we've learned from them. We know the cost of war better than anyone." He moved closer to Zyrtak, looking directly into the alien's compound eyes. We came offering friendship, not submission. If you think you can dictate terms to us based on prejudice and fear, you've misunderstood something fundamental about humans. Alan's voice dropped lower, each word precise and clear. You want conflict? We'll show you war. 3 months after the failed diplomatic mission, the United Earth government received a formal declaration from the consortium. The message appeared simultaneously on every major communication system across Earth and its colonies. Lisa Martinez sat at the head of the Emergency Council table, her new position as Earth's defense minister weighing heavily on her shoulders. Representatives from all human colonies filled the room, their faces grim as they reviewed the consortium's message. They've labeled us a Level 4 aggressive species, Lisa said, her voice steady despite her anger. We have 2 options: accept consortium stewardship or face what they call pacification. John Peters, the Mars colony representative and a retired Marine, slammed his fist on the table. Stewardship, they mean slavery. And pacification, that's just a pretty word for extinction. The room erupted in voices until Lisa raised her hand for silence. There's more. Our intelligence teams have uncovered evidence that the consortium has been actively sabotaging human expansion for years. She activated a holographic display showing mysterious accidents, unexplained equipment failures, and strange communication disruptions that had plagued human colonies. The reactor failure on Europa last year, not an accident. The lost supply ships near Saturn. They were intercepted. The consortium has been testing us, measuring our responses, looking for weaknesses. Captain Alan Wright, recently promoted after the diplomatic mission, stepped forward. We also have reports of unusual activity in the Kuiper Belt. Our long-range scanners detected what appears to be a consortium scout fleet mapping Earth's defense systems. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just facing threats, they were facing an imminent invasion from a technologically superior enemy. What are our options? Asked a representative from the Luna colony, her voice small but determined. Lisa's expression hardened. I've already implemented Protocol Thermopylae. Murmurs spread through the room. Protocol Thermopylae was a long-dormant contingency plan, named after an ancient battle where a small force had held off a much larger invading army. It had been developed decades ago, but never activated. As we speak, all civilian shipyards are being converted to military production. We're recalling every ship with combat capabilities. Defense platforms around Earth and major colonies are being upgraded with our most advanced weapons systems. It won't be enough, John said bluntly. We've all seen the specs on consortium vessels. They can outrun, outgun, and outmaneuver anything we have. Then we'll build better ships, Lisa replied. Faster, stronger, smarter. Alan stepped forward again. There's something else. My brother Daniel heads a research team at Luna Base. They've been analyzing the data we gathered during the diplomatic mission. He believes the consortium's technology has a weakness. The Council turned to him with renewed interest. Their systems are incredibly advanced, but they're also predictable. They've never faced an opponent who uses chaotic, irrational tactics. Their battle computers are designed to find patterns and exploit them. But what if there are no patterns to find? Lisa nodded slowly. Guerrilla warfare on a cosmic scale. Exactly, Alan said. We can't match their firepower, but we can confuse their targeting systems, disrupt their formations, and strike where they least expect it. John Peters stood up, his military experience evident in his bearing. It might work. When I was in the Marines, we faced better-equipped enemies several times. What saved us wasn't better guns, it was better tactics and the willingness to do the unexpected. Lisa looked around the room at the representatives of humanity. Some looked afraid, others determined, but all understood what was at stake. The consortium thinks they know us because they've studied our wars, she said, but they've missed something important. Humans don't just fight for conquest or resources. We fight hardest when we're defending our homes, our families, our right to determine our own future. She stood tall, her voice ringing with conviction. "The consortium wanted to see if we know conflict. Let's show them that when humanity is pushed, we don't just fight. We win." Across the solar system, humanity's scattered colonies began coordinating their defenses. Earth's factories shifted to wartime production. And in the darkness of space, the first human warships moved into position, ready to face an enemy that had gravely underestimated what humans were capable of when threatened. Dr. Daniel Wright hunched over his workstation at Luna Base, surrounded by holographic displays showing consortium technology schematics. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he couldn't stop now. Too much depended on his team's work. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a pattern in the data. "Their weapon systems follow strict mathematical sequences. Every attack run, every defensive maneuver, it's all perfectly logical." His assistant nodded. "And that's their weakness." "Yes, they've never faced an opponent who employs truly random tactics. Their battle computers try to find patterns even when there aren't any." A chime sounded, announcing a visitor. The lab door slid open to reveal Karen Hughes, a brilliant engineer from the Europa colony. She carried a small device that pulsed with blue light. "I think we've got something," she said without preamble. "Project Mosquito is ready for testing." Daniel's tired face broke into a smile. "Show me." Karen activated a hologram showing small, highly maneuverable fighter craft. They're 1/5 the size of standard fighters, but twice as fast. The engines use a new propulsion system based on the data your brother collected. "Weapons?" Daniel asked. "Limited conventional armaments, but they each carry 3 EMP devices that can temporarily disable consortium shields." Karen manipulated the hologram, showing the fighters in formation. "The key is how they move. We've programmed attack patterns based on Earth predators, wolves, sharks, even insect swarms. Unpredictable but coordinated." Daniel nodded. "Exactly what we need." Their conversation was interrupted by a base-wide alert. A voice echoed through the facility. "Attention all personnel. Consortium fleet detected approaching Earth orbit. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Daniel and Karen rushed to the command center. On the main screen, they watched as dozens of sleek alien vessels emerged from light speed near Earth's orbital defense platforms. The battle began without warning. Consortium ships fired precision beams that sliced through Earth's orbital defenses with frightening ease. Humanity's largest battleships moved to engage but were quickly overwhelmed by the alien superior technology. "We're losing our orbital platforms," a communications officer reported, her voice tight with tension. "Planetary defense grid is down to 60%. Lisa Martinez's face appeared on a side screen. "Dr. Wright, we need those mosquitoes now. The consortium is breaking through faster than we anticipated." Daniel looked at Karen, who nodded firmly. "They're ready, Minister. Not fully tested, but ready." "Launch them," Lisa ordered. "All of them." Hidden bays on the dark side of the moon opened, releasing hundreds of the small fighter craft. They streaked toward Earth orbit, moving in formations that seemed chaotic to human observers. The consortium fleet, preparing for planetary bombardment, didn't immediately register the small craft as threats. By the time they detected the approaching fighters, the mosquitoes had already split into attack groups that mimicked wolf pack hunting behaviors. The first wave hit a consortium destroyer from multiple angles simultaneously. Several fighters were destroyed by automated defenses, but others got close enough to deploy their EMP weapons. For a brief moment, sections of the destroyer's shields flickered and failed. More mosquitoes darted in, firing conventional weapons at the exposed hull. The damage wasn't severe, but it was damage. The first humanity had managed to inflict on the seemingly invincible alien ships. Another group of fighters targeted a consortium cruiser, moving in a pattern based on shark-feeding frenzies. The alien vessel's tracking systems struggled to lock onto targets that didn't follow expected evasion patterns. In the command center, Daniel watched as his brother Alan's voice came through the comm system. "It's working. Their targeting computers can't keep up with the random movements. A cheer went up as a consortium light cruiser, hit by multiple EMP bursts, drifted powerless for several crucial seconds before its backup systems engage. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to break as ships moved to defend against the unexpected threat. Their responses, while still devastatingly effective, showed signs of confusion. After 30 minutes of chaotic battle, the consortium fleet did something no one expected. They withdrew, pulling back to a defensive position near Mars orbit. Karen grabbed Daniel's arm, her face showing disbelief and hope. They retreated. We actually made them retreat. Daniel nodded, exhaustion mixing with determination on his face. For now, they'll be back with adapted tactics, but we've proven something important today. What's that? Asked a nearby technician. That their technology isn't invincible, Daniel said. And sometimes, a mosquito can drive off a lion. 6 months had passed since the first battle. Humanity was still vastly outgunned, but they had managed to slow the consortium's advance. The alien forces now seemed cautious, even frustrated by human resistance. Major Eric Sanders crouched behind a rocky outcrop on Ganymede's surface. 5 soldiers from his Special Forces team were spread out nearby, their adaptive camouflage blending perfectly with the moon's barren landscape. "Target in sight," whispered Linda Wilson, the team's linguistics specialist. Through her scope, she watched a small consortium outpost that had been established on Ganymede 3 weeks ago. "Life signs?" Eric asked. "Mostly Vexstar, but I'm detecting at least one luminary signature," replied the team's scanner operator. Eric nodded. This matched their intelligence. "Remember, we need prisoners and data. No unnecessary damage to their systems." The team moved silently toward the outpost, using natural formations for cover. Earth forces had discovered that consortium sensors had trouble distinguishing between human life signs and background radiation when humans moved slowly and deliberately. Linda stayed close to Eric. Beyond her language skills, she had recently made breakthroughs in understanding consortium communications. She could now interpret some of their signals without relying entirely on translation devices. The attack was swift and precise. Flash grenades specifically designed to disorient Vexstar vision disabled the guards. The team breached the facility's airlock and moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. In the control room, they found what they were looking for: a luminary scientist, working alone at a console. Unlike the aggressive Vexstar, this crystalline being made no move to resist when the humans entered. "I am not armed," the luminary said in perfect English. "I have been expecting someone like you." Linda stepped forward, fascinated. "You speak our language without a translator." "I am Kirel, xenobiologist. I study species, including yours." The crystal being's surface rippled slightly. "I suspected humans would eventually target this facility." While the rest of the team downloaded data from the consortium computers, Eric kept his weapon trained on Kirel. "Why were you expecting us?" "Because you are doing what no species has done before, adapting faster than the consortium can predict." Kirel's crystalline form shifted, creating patterns that Linda recognized as indication of deep thought. "This war is unnecessary." Linda tilted her head. "Your people attacked us." "Not my people. The Vexstar. They dominate the consortium and pushed for this conflict." Kirel moved to a different console and brought up a display showing data on human responses to various consortium tactics. "Look at these reaction time charts. Your species adapts almost instantly to new threats. The Vexstar cannot comprehend this. All consortium species evolved in stable environments over millions of years. We developed along predictable paths." Eric lowered his weapon slightly. "And humans didn't. Your planet experienced rapid climate shifts, forcing constant adaptation. Your cultures transformed completely within centuries, while ours remained stable for millennia." Kirel's voice carried what Linda interpreted as admiration. "The consortium fears what it cannot predict." Linda's eyes widened as understanding dawned. It's not our violence they fear. It's our unpredictability. Precisely. The Vextar's models failed to predict your responses. Their computers cannot calculate your next moves because you often make choices that seem irrational but prove effective. Eric's communication device buzzed. Major, we've secured the data and set the charges. 2 minutes until extraction. Eric nodded to his team, then turned back to Kirill. You're coming with us. The luminary scientists showed no resistance. I expected that too. As they moved through the facility toward their extraction point, Linda whispered to Eric, "This changes everything. The consortium isn't united against us." Eric nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. And our greatest strength isn't our weapons or technology. It's our ability to improvise, to make do with what we have. To be unpredictable, Linda added. Their shuttle lifted off just as small, precisely targeted explosions disabled the outpost's communication array. The team hadn't destroyed the facility, just made sure it couldn't call for help. As Ganymede shrank behind them, Eric looked at their luminary prisoner who sat calmly observing the humans. He realized they had captured something far more valuable than they had planned. Not just an enemy scientist, but a potential ally who understood the consortium's greatest weakness. Set course for Earth, Eric ordered the pilot. And tell Command we're bringing back more than just intelligence data. We're bringing them the key to winning this war. Admiral Mary Clark studied the holographic display showing consortium territory. After weeks of analyzing the intelligence from Ganymede and extensive conversations with Kirill, a clear strategy was emerging. There are deep divisions within the consortium, Mary explained to the gathered military leadership, particularly between the militant Vextar and the academic luminary. Susan Kelly, once a diplomat and now head of alien relations, nodded in agreement. Kirill has helped us establish covert communications with sympathetic luminary factions. They've never wanted this war. The room was silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Lisa Martinez spoke up. So we fight the Vextar while making friends with the luminary. Exactly, Mary confirmed. Divide and conquer. Meanwhile, across the solar system, Captain Alan Wright prepared for a dangerous mission. His newly built stealth vessel, the Shadow Asterisk, was unlike any ship humanity had created before. Its hull absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them, and its engines left minimal energy signatures. Final equipment check complete, reported Paul Rogers, the communications officer. The young man had shown remarkable aptitude for understanding alien communication patterns. Alan nodded, surveying his small but elite crew. Our mission is clear. We're heading deep into consortium territory to make contact with the Terrene. According to Kirill, the Terrene were a rumored 8th species that had refused to join the consortium. Silicon-based life forms with powerful telepathic abilities, they had been previously conquered by the Vextar and were now kept isolated from other species. If the Terrene hate the Vextar as much as Kirill suggests, Alan told his crew, they could be powerful allies. The Shadow Asterisk slipped past consortium patrols using irregular course changes that defied predictive algorithms. After 2 tense weeks of travel, they reached a small rocky planet at the edge of consortium space. No response to our signals, Paul reported as they entered orbit. Alan frowned. Try the frequency, Kirill provided. Still nothing. The planet below showed signs of ancient civilization, but no current technology or energy signatures. Had they come all this way for nothing? I'm getting something, Paul said suddenly, his hand shaking slightly as he adjusted his headset. It's not on any channel. It's in my head. Alan moved quickly to his side. What do you mean? Telepathic contact, Paul whispered. They know we're here. They want us to land at these coordinates. The landing was tense but uneventful. When the team stepped onto the planet's surface, they found themselves in a vast underground cavern filled with glowing crystalline formations. Welcome, humans, came a voice that seemed to echo directly in their minds. We are the Terrene. We have watched your struggle against the consortium with great interest. A being emerged from the crystals, its body seeming to form and reform constantly, like living silicon. I am Kelsor, speaker for the Terrene Council, it communicated. For millennia, we have resisted the Vextar's control. Now finally, allies have come. Paul stepped forward, seemingly drawn to the alien. You're contacting me directly. How? Your mind is unusually receptive, Kelsor explained, a rare quality among physical beings. Over the next hours, the humans learned the truth about the consortium. It had once been a genuine alliance of equals, but the Vextar had gradually seized control through intimidation rather than cooperation. The Terrene, with their telepathic abilities, had been isolated specifically because they could sense the Vextar's deception. The Luminary and others chafe under Vextar dominance, Kelsor revealed, but fear keeps them in line. Fear works both ways, Alan replied. What if they saw another option? As the discussion continued, Paul found himself forming an unexpected telepathic bond with Kelsor, their minds connecting in ways he couldn't fully explain. Through this connection, the humans gained invaluable insights, detailed maps of consortium space, Vextar weaknesses, and the location of other species who might support rebellion against Vextar rule. When it was time to leave, Kelsor approached Paul. We will maintain our connection. Through you, our peoples can coordinate actions across vast distances without consortium detection. Back aboard the Shadow Asterisk, Alan looked at his communications officer with new respect. This changes everything, Paul. We've just gained an advantage the consortium can't predict or counter. As the stealth ship began its dangerous journey home, a plan emerged. With the Terrene's telepathic network, they could coordinate simultaneously with sympathetic Luminary and other discontented consortium species. We're not just fighting a war anymore, Alan told his crew. We're sparking a revolution. Jane Mitchell, commander of the Mars Defense Forces, looked out across the red planet's surface from her underground command center. In the months since the war began, Mars had become humanity's front line. Its position made it both vulnerable and strategically vital. Operation Hornet's Nest is ready to launch, Commander, her second-in-command reported. Jane nodded, her expression determined. Begin countdown, and make sure all civilian shelters are sealed. Operation Hornet's Nest was Jane's brainchild, a strategy designed to provoke consortium forces into costly overreactions. The name came from an old Earth tactic where soldiers would poke a hornet's nest with a long stick, then run away while the angry insects chased them into a prepared trap. Across the solar system, humanity had fully embraced asymmetric warfare. Earth's remaining shipyards worked day and night producing thousands of drone ships that appeared on sensors as full military vessels. These ghost fleets constantly drew consortium resources away from actual human targets. Launch in 3, 2, 1. Mark, Jane ordered. From concealed silos across Mars, hundreds of small missiles launched toward space. They weren't aimed at the consortium fleet directly. Instead, they created a complex pattern of sensor ghosts, decoys, and false energy signatures that made it appear as if a massive human attack force was gathering. Consortium fleet is responding, a tactical officer called out. They're redirecting 3 battle groups to intercept. Jane smiled grimly. Right on schedule. As the consortium ships moved to engage the phantom threat, actual human strike teams hit their supply lines and communication relays in entirely different sectors. By the time the aliens realized they were chasing ghosts, real damage had been done elsewhere. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Dr. Daniel Wright had completed work on an adapted version of consortium shield technology. His team had reversed engineered it from damaged alien vessels, improving it to work with human power systems. The new shields are ready for deployment, Daniel told Lisa Martinez over a secure channel. We've installed them on the defensive platforms around Mars already. Lisa's image nodded on the screen. Just in time. Our intelligence suggests the consortium is planning something big. They're frustrated with our tactics and want a decisive victory. Daniel's face showed concern. Mars. We think so. Jane Mitchell is aware and preparing. 3 days later, the largest consortium force yet seen entered Mars orbit. Over 50 warships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts, began systematically targeting human defenses. Jane watched calmly as the attack began. Hold positions. Let them think they're winning. The consortium ships followed their standard attack pattern. Methodical, precise, and utterly predictable. They disabled the outer defense ring exactly as human tacticians had predicted they would. They're moving into position for the main assault, Jane's tactical officer reported. Now, Jane ordered. At her command, Mars defense forces sprang the trap. Defense platforms previously thought destroyed came back online, now equipped with the new shield technology. The drone fleet hiding behind Mars moons surged forward, not to attack directly but to confuse and disrupt consortium formations. Most importantly, the human fighters employed tactics inspired by ancient Earth cavalry maneuvers, feigning retreat, then suddenly wheeling around to strike at exposed flanks, always moving in ways that the consortium battle computers couldn't anticipate. Their formations are breaking. Someone shouted as the battle unfolded on the command center's main screen. For the first time in the war, a human fleet was truly holding its own against a numerically superior consortium force. The new shields absorbed punishment that would have destroyed human ships in previous engagements, while the unpredictable attack patterns prevented the aliens from concentrating their fire effectively. After 6 hours of intense combat, the impossible happened. The consortium fleet began to withdraw, leaving behind damaged ships and confusion. The battle for Mars had been won with minimal human losses. Cheers erupted throughout the command center. Jane allowed herself a small smile before calling for silence. This is just one battle, she reminded her troops. But it's an important one. Today we prove that humans can stand against the best the consortium has to offer, and win. News of the victory spread rapidly through human space, boosting morale everywhere. But its impact reached even further. Throughout the consortium, word spread of the defeat, sending shockwaves through the command structure and giving hope to those species who secretly resisted Vextar rule. The balance of the war had begun to shift. Susan Kelly stood in a secure meeting room aboard the neutral space station, where months of secret diplomacy were finally bearing fruit. Beside her stood Kirill, the luminary scientist who had become humanity's first alien ally. "It is time," Kirill said, crystal body shimmering with anticipation. Susan nodded as the door opened. 3 alien representatives entered, a luminary elder, an aquatic Mirdai in a floating water sphere, and a container holding a swirling Cassius Varrock. "Welcome," Susan greeted them. "Thank you for taking this risk." The luminary elder spoke first. The victory at Mars proved what Kirill has been saying. The Vextar are not invincible, and their leadership has failed the consortium. "We have lived too long under Vextar dominance," the Mirdai gurgled through its translator. "This war against humans was never necessary." The Varrock's gas form swirled faster, indicating agitation. "The Vextar no longer speak for us. We are prepared to break from their faction." Susan could hardly believe it was happening. After months of fighting for survival, humanity had gained powerful allies. 3 consortium species were ready to rebel against Vextar leadership and join with humans and the telepathic terrain. "We must move quickly," Susan said. "Once the Vextar realize what's happening, they'll respond with full force." The news spread rapidly through secure channels. The consortium was splitting apart. Civil war erupted as Luminari, Mirdai, and Varrock ships turned against their former Vextar commanders. The terrain provided crucial intelligence through their telepathic network, with Paul Rogers serving as their human connection. The Vextar, facing rebellion from within and a human enemy that grew more dangerous by the day, made a desperate decision. Their remaining loyal fleet gathered for a final, massive assault on Earth. If they could destroy the human homeworld, Perhaps they could crush this rebellion before it fully formed. Admiral Mary Clark received the warning from Terrene intelligence just hours before the attack began. "All Earth Defense Forces to battle stations," she ordered. "This is what we've been preparing for." The largest space battle of the war unfolded as combined human and allied alien forces defended Earth. Human ships with their adapted shields fought alongside luminary crystal vessels, Mirdai water spheres, and Veruk gas clouds. The Terrene couldn't participate directly but provided real-time intelligence that allowed the defenders to anticipate Vextar moves. For 3 days, the battle raged around Earth. Ships burned in the darkness of space, debris fields grew, and brave pilots from multiple species gave their lives to protect humanity's cradle. On the battle's 3rd day, Major Eric Sanders led a covert team aboard a stealth shuttle. While the main battle distracted the Vextar, they managed to dock with the enormous Vextar command ship. Fighting their way through the alien vessel, Eric's team reached the ship's data core. Linda Wilson, now fluent in Vextar computer language, began downloading intelligence files. "Eric, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with shock. "I found the real reason behind the Vextar's hostility toward us." Eric looked at the genetic scans on the screen. "What am I seeing?" "Human DNA has markers that match Terrene genetic patterns. According to these files, we may be distant relatives of the Terrene, whom the Vextar have feared for millennia." Meanwhile, Alan Wright's ship Defiance had taken heavy damage but remained operational. He made a critical decision. "All power to engines," he ordered. "We're making a run at the Vextar flagship." His crew knew it was likely a suicide mission, but nobody objected. The Defiance accelerated toward the massive alien vessel, drawing fire from multiple enemy ships. At that moment, Paul Rogers, aboard a support vessel, felt his telepathic link with the Terrene strengthen. Through this connection, the Allied forces achieved perfect coordination for the first time. Now, Paul broadcast to all Allied ships. Human and alien vessels executed a perfectly timed attack that opened a brief path for the Defiance. Alan's ship shot through the gap, evading enough fire to reach the Vextar flagship. Instead of ramming or firing conventional weapons, the Defiance launched a specialized device developed by Daniel Wright. It attached to the flagship's hull and activated, sending electromagnetic pulses through the alien vessel's systems. The massive Vextar command ship went dark, its weapons and engines disabled rather than destroyed. The battle paused as both sides witnessed the seemingly invincible flagship floating powerless in space. The Vextar had finally been beaten at their own game. 3 years after first contact, representatives from all species gathered at a newly constructed space station orbiting in neutral territory between Earth and former consortium space. The circular meeting chamber had been designed to accommodate beings of all shapes, sizes, and environmental needs. Admiral Alan Wright, now commanding Earth's growing fleet, straightened his formal uniform as he prepared to enter the chamber. The scars on his face told the story of hard-fought battles, but today was about peace. "Ready for this?" Susan Kelly asked, joining him at the entrance. Alan nodded. "Never thought I'd see this day when I spoke those words years ago." Inside, they faced the same Vextar ambassador who had dismissed humanity at their first meeting. Zyrtak's once proud posture was subdued. The Vextar, their military power broken, had reluctantly agreed to participate in the peace negotiations. "Admiral Wright," Zyrtak acknowledged with a slight bow, "your species has proven unexpected. That's what makes us human," Alan replied simply. The meeting began with representatives from each species taking their places around the circular table. The alliance that defeated the Vextar had grown to include nearly all former consortium members, with humans sitting as equals among them. Susan stepped forward to address the gathering. As Earth's chief negotiator, she had worked tirelessly to reach this moment. 3 years ago, we met as strangers and quickly became enemies, she began. Today, we gather as potential allies with a chance to build something better than what came before. She activated a holographic display showing a new organizational structure, one to replace the failed consortium with something more equal. We propose a new interstellar body, not built on hierarchy or control, but on mutual respect and cooperation. No species will command another. All voices will be heard. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. Even some Vextar representatives nodded reluctantly. Kirill, now serving as the luminary ambassador, spoke next. The humans have shown us something we have forgotten. Strength does not come from technological superiority or rigid order. It comes from adaptation, creativity, and the courage to change. The Terrene representative communicated telepathically through Paul Rogers, who had become their permanent liaison. For millennia, we believed the only response to oppression was hiding. Humans showed us another way, that resistance is possible when different minds work together. Karen Hughes presented plans for joint scientific ventures that would benefit all species. The engineer had adapted human and alien technologies into hybrid systems more effective than either alone. We can transform the tools of war into vessels of exploration, she explained, showing designs for ships that combine the best features of all species technology. There are whole galaxies waiting for us to discover them together. As the final agreements were prepared, Zyrtak approached Alan privately. I must ask, the Vextar said. When you spoke those words, you want conflict. We'll show you war. Did you anticipate this outcome? Alan shook his head. No one could have predicted this. We were fighting for survival, not conquest. That is why you won, Zyrtak replied. We sought to prevent conflict by demanding submission and created war instead. Your species taught us that true peace comes not from the absence of conflict, but from the courage to face it honestly. In the ceremony that followed, all species signed the new charter. The Galactic Accord was born, a true alliance of equals united by shared interests rather than fear. Later, Alan and Susan stood at a viewport, watching ships from a dozen worlds working together on the construction of a joint research facility. It's strange, Susan said. Our talent for warfare ended up creating peace. Alan nodded. The consortium saw our conflicts and thought they made us dangerous. They didn't understand that our struggles taught us the value of resolving differences. He watched as a human ship maneuvered alongside a luminary vessel, the crews working in perfect coordination. They wanted to see if we knew conflict, Alan said quietly. We showed them war. But more importantly, we showed them what comes after: rebuilding, forgiveness, and moving forward together. Susan smiled. Not bad for a level 4 aggressive species. No, Alan agreed, looking out at the stars that now represented possibility rather than danger. Not bad at all.